everyone. Welcome back to the Speak to Transform. I have a special guest with me today, continuing on this series of the Kim 10 Speaker Certification and just doing interviews with those who just freshly went through the last round of the Kingdom Speaker Academy, and specifically those who spoke in LA at the Kim 10 certification. And my guest today is Lenee Pezzano.
Yes.
Hello, Lenee.
Hi.
I first of all want to say I love your smile. You just have a beautiful smile.
Thank
just
you.
Brightens a room.
Aww.
And you and I just got to know each other more in the last couple of weeks here when we hung out in LA for the King Speaker Academy certification process. And you were one of the people going through certification. And I just want to say, what a blessing to get to know you.
Thank you. Same. I feel the same way. I needed another day or two just to carry that on.
It's so true. It was like no one wanted to leave. We were like, okay, we're done. We're done.
Right.
Yeah, we'll have to build that in next time where we have an extra day where we can hang out, just go to the beach together. We did go for a little ride, but it wasn't long enough.
Right.
So Lenee, let's for those who are listening, I want you to share a little bit about yourself in terms of who you are, and then we're going to talk about why you decide to take the Kingdom Speaker Academy, which is our 9-week training within the Kingdom Alliance for those who want to up-level their speaking skills. And then you didn't just stop there. You went on to the certification and rocked it. So then I want to talk a bit about your experience there, how that was for you in that process. But tell me a little bit about yourself. Who is Lenee? Where you live? All that kind of stuff.
So I am born and raised in Ohio. Grew up in Central Ohio. Went to Catholic elementary school, public middle and high school, and then really grew up in the days in the 80s when you were kind of told to go get a 4-year degree and then go get a job. It was a pretty linear concept. There wasn't a lot of knowing seeking what I want to do in life. It was just, I needed to get a job and get out of the house kind of thing. And so paid my own way through college. I stayed in Ohio and then just kind of did the next thing. I pursued jobs and I, was kind of going down the human resources route and staffing and those types of things. And for whatever reason, my career continued to kind of evolve and come to me. It wasn't very often that I found myself having to seek the next thing.
Yeah.
So I just kind of went with the wind of it. If it was an opportunity that was a promotion and I felt like it would add more skills to my resume, I went with it. I was, in full transparency, also a very broken young person and young adult. And so though, if you're in the world of addiction, let's say, I would have been called a high functioning addict. And so behind the scenes, I suffered in silence a lot with all kinds of things. But if I had to kind of coin it today, I would say that perfectionism and fear were very strong roots in my life. But nobody would ever know that. And I always overcompensated and was fully functioning and, energetic, voted best all around in high school. I mean, social butterfly, don't know a stranger, that kind of thing. And so then really around the early 90s, so about 18 to 24 years old, I kind of packed it all in before I was like hitting rock bottom, if you will. Through a series of relationships and friendships, I came to know the Lord. And as was always the case in life, I was all in. And, I just kind of went hard after him. And I don't think I've ever quit going hard after him. I just think, he has learned, he's definitely taught me more about who he is. And so I've just kind of been on this journey. I've never been married, no children. I'm still waiting on, it's a whole nother story, but still waiting on promises from God of marriage someday. Uh,
Mhm.
50, coming up on 53 years old. And so there's even a story even in that. But through it all, at least for close to 30 years now, walking with him, I mean, I, I have story after story of how he's revealed himself to me.
Mhm.
And so I find myself now at a place in life where I'm more content than I've ever been. And I had been praying, ironically, not ironically, the last probably 3 or 4 years in my career, I've been really praying for help to communicate better. And most people who are around me are like, I don't feel like you need help communicating. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, I know that there is a place for me on stage or in front of groups. And they didn't know this, but inside I would feel um, ill-equipped to present, especially to certain groups,
Mm.
whether it's C-suite or whoever. I just wanted help being more succinct and learning how to succinct and learning how to
Mhm.
frame things up. And I went on a search for help, and the closest thing I could find was Toastmasters. And unfortunately, in my area, the time of the meeting conflicted with my workday. And so I kind of just didn't have anything. Um, and so, I don't want to jump too far ahead of your question, but that's,
Yes. No, thank you so much. So
yeah,
you're a career gal. You
kind
so
of, had to be.
oh yeah, no, and I don't mean that's not a
Yeah,
yeah, that's just what it is. So
yeah,
you have been developing yourself in different ways and sounds like in the people skills and things like
yeah,
that. So
yeah.
sounds like you have a lot of experience in that area, which is fantastic. And
Mhm.
so which brings me to the question of how and why did you decide to what was it about the Girl Power Alliance
Yeah,
community that really attracted you?
yeah. So I'm at a point in my walk with the Lord where I'm not motivated by motivational speaking and a bunch of conferences, which is what makes my story a little bit ironic. So one of the leaders inside of Girl Power Alliance, Natalie Lawson, was poking me. She and I had been in business together prior to her time with the
Mm,
company. And she had been telling me about it. And I just was like, I'm not interested. It's not time for me. I had other things. I was writing a book and obeying the Lord. I'm at a place where I'm just like, Lord, where do you want me? Not where does everybody else want me?
mhm,
And so, I finished the book, published it, launched it, did all that. And then she poked me again right about that, like last October. And she's like, hey, we're having our conference in California. Would you want to come? And I just felt the nudge of the Holy Spirit. And I was like praying about it. And I was like, I feel like the Lord's telling me start to say yes to opportunities.
mm,
I was like, okay, because I had been asking him, what's the next thing? And so I flew to the conference, Activate, and I didn't really know what I was getting into. And so I went there probably more skeptical than anything. And I was like, Lord, you just need to give me discernment. And I remember walking into the first night, and everything opens with prayer, and then we were having some praise and worship time, and I just remember immediately knowing the Spirit was there.
mm,
And then with every session, they always opened with prayer, and there was more talk about the Lord than there was about the business, and so that was like new to me, and there was just something different about it. You know, it might have been more than just one thing and the stars aligning, if you will. But, for me, and I love the business model, always have loved those kind of business models. So there were all these reasons why I thought, okay, this is definitely a yes for me. And then, flew back home and joined a week or two later.
mhm.
So,
That is
yeah.
so good. Yeah, the Activate conference is one of a kind for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I mean, if you want community and that, I mean, just wow. Like you get enough of the same kind of hunger in one room
Mhm.
who are united, not just in hunger, but in faith.
Yeah.
You'll see all kinds of Jesus show up. So,
It's true, and yet we're all very passionate about advancing the kingdom in the marketplace, right? Being a light in the marketplace, which is another common goal that we have, and so it's really quite a combination. And yeah, so if you're listening right now and you're like, "What?" We say come to San Diego in October. If you need the link, let us know. Reach out to Lenee or me, wherever you're listening to this, because it is a conference that you don't want to miss. It's
yeah,
both spiritual, but also business, practical business development. So it's really, really powerful.
yeah,
That's another story in itself, but it's definitely
mhm,
something that I believe any woman, kingdom woman who wants to grow as a person, as a entrepreneur, as a businesswoman, but also wants to really reflect Christ and bring the kingdom into the marketplace. It's a great training ground, but a great community as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think the other thing I would just highlight quickly is the option to either just do the program where you're mentored and you can
Mhm.
grow to mentor others, or the business side of it. Now, for me, I was all in business, and it was within the first 2 weeks, the Lord quickly said, "No, no, 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 you're getting ahead of me. That is not what I'm asking you." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I had to back up and let Him lead me. And so, that's definitely, I've been spending more time in the portal and the classes, and then being mentored and eventually mentoring others. But yeah,
Yeah,
but you have
so
the
good.
option. I love it.
And this is the thing, like sometimes we come to a place in our life where we know, okay, I feel like I'm kind of at a plateau. I need something in order to break me out of this. And we all know when we feel that, right? Sometimes we stay in that place longer than we should,
Yep.
but it's being able to recognize, okay, I need help and I don't even know what that means, or I need something to get me out of this place so that I can be more
Yeah.
engaged or excited or alive. I feel like, and really it's for me, I know when I'm around other people that are also excited about growing in God, and just really challenging each other in an
Yeah.
accountability way, that really helps me to stay alive, I guess, with the word, and
Yeah.
also, right, just really, it really helps to bring us up. So I know for me that is one of the beautiful things I love about the Girl Power Alliance community. And one thing that is really taking off right now, in addition to our Radiant Leadership Academy, we have our Kingdom Speaker Academy that God is using to really equip and train women to release their voice and to be able to step out and share their message to the world. And you were one of the 150 that just went through it,
Yeah.
but then it pared down to a smaller number because we can
Mhm.
only coach so many people in a few days
Yeah.
who went for the 2-day in-person certification
Yeah.
in Los Angeles this time.
Yeah.
I would love for you to share, and maybe if you've had other training from other, maybe through your work, through communication training or speaking training, how that compared, or what are some things that you really took away from one, the training, but then also we'll go into the certification part.
Yeah. I think, like I was sharing earlier, I had been desiring something and I almost couldn't put into words what I wanted. I knew it had something to do with helping me frame up my presentation, but it didn't really matter what training I looked for online, or it just didn't resonate with me.
Mm,
For whatever reason, I just needed something to help me architect, because architecture is not my strength. Um, At least I didn't think it was. So I, I didn't even consider like a speech coach because in my mind, those are the kind of things you have to be at like a CEO level and above at a large corporation to hire. So it didn't cross my mind to even look at that as an option. So really, like I said, I kept coming back to Toastmasters being the closest thing. But even in that, you had to do your own, like, go follow this path. And if you have time, take these courses. And I just didn't have the community aspect of it in the trenches with me, helping me learn the framework. So when I learned about, Kingdom Speaker Academy, I was like, well, I don't know. It's part of my program. It's part of my membership. I'm already paying for a membership. Let me just sign up and take it. And I no sooner got through the first class and was like, oh my gosh, this is everything I'm looking for. I just knew. I just knew. I don't know why I knew other than I just knew. And so it only got better for me week after week. And then I was like, oh yeah, I'm totally going to go the step all the way with this. And it was also stirring up some things the Lord was about to deal with inside of me that I didn't even know were there as well. And that's the thing about my relationship with the Lord. He's always sticking me in situations that are going to poke at things that he's going to have to tweak or fix in me that I would never do myself. He's, unless he says go, I'm not going. And so he's just, he knows I'll obey him. And so I get into these situations and then I'm like, oh man, I didn't even know that fear was in me, or I didn't even know that pride was in me, or just whatever. So this was another one of those times.
Yeah. It's so true, because unless we put ourselves in a place where we are being challenged, really, and whether it be just overtly challenged because of what someone is saying, and the Spirit of God is speaking to us in that. Wow. We don't know where we need to grow. We don't know. We think we're okay. So I can totally relate. And I think that's the beautiful thing of putting ourselves in a community where, it can be awkward. It can be uncomfortable, especially if you don't like being with people a lot, right?
Sure,
There's been a lot of women who have been hurt by other women. I have too. It never deterred me from relating to women, but I can understand that, it's just part of life. We get hurt, we get misunderstood. But if, I believe my experience is that where we have been hurt, often God will bring us not necessarily back into the same situation, but we'll use something of that to bring healing to us as well. For example, if we've been hurt by a father, he'll often use a male in our life or someone in our life as a father figure or someone to heal that part of us, so that it can be going forward. So you got into the Kingdom Speaker Academy, you went forward to the 2-day in-person certification. And I just want to say, I love your talk. I love your message. I'm so excited to see it continue to unfold. And tell me a little bit about what you were feeling that first day, because it can be pretty intimidating.
Yeah, it's so funny too, again, because those who know me and love me would say that I belong on stage. They've said that for years. And, if I know my content and I know it well, I can get on a stage and present. If I'm being interviewed, I feel pretty confident. But when I have to create the speech and then I'm going to be assessed and then videotape, like add all the bells and whistles and watch the insecurities rise up. And so we call it nervited. I was nervous and excited, and I had worked so very hard on that speech and was proud of it. I had practiced it in front of friends and videotaped myself and got to a point where I was starting to overcome. And this is a key point, right? Like, as we obey the nudge of the Spirit and as we keep putting ourselves into the uncomfortable begins to become more comfortable, and we start overcoming it. You don't overcome if you don't engage in the activity that first is scary, or whatever the emotion is. And so I started being okay watching myself on video and hearing myself on video. And so it was in layers, things I was experiencing. And then, but I realized social anxiety is a very real thing for me. And I knew I was going to have to face rejection issues in my heart. And I had been praying that the Lord
Mm,
begin to uproot rejection in my
mm,
life. And the timing of those prayers with this academy was perfect. And most of the rejection in my life came from other women. And so
mm.
it was I just was a very scary thing for me. And so that first day of rehearsals, I was shaking, like crazy shaking. But I was determined to do my very best, and I feel like I did. So
Yeah, I mean, we could not tell that you
yeah,
were
that's what
shaking
they
enough,
always say. Yeah,
but I could tell that you were prepared. I can always you can tell the difference. I can tell when people have practiced, they're prepared,
yeah,
they have actually put some thought and
yeah.
time into this, and that was definitely something that I saw in you, that there was already a confidence, there was already
Mm,
a level of competence, but there was already a natural ease. Even
mhm.
though you may have felt very nervous, there was already a natural ease on stage,
Yeah, yeah.
and I saw that, and so that was really powerful for you to be able to step into that place. And yeah, you're working with a new framework, you're working with a new way of communicating, and
Mm,
you're trying it on for size, right? And it's like
yeah,
when we're learning to drive a stick shift,
yes,
like
yes,
everything feels awkward. Okay, I've got to remember so many things, my both
yes,
my feet, everything. So
yeah,
I like to equate it to that, because initially it does feel that way.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. So then you
And
did.
I have an incredible amount of respect for that. So during the 9 weeks online, I knew I was operating with a caliber of women that could mentor me. I'm usually the one who can mentor others around most of my social circles at times.
Mhm.
And, people who are natural leaders long for
Yeah.
others to lead them, and others strong, and that was intimidating in and of itself, but
Mm.
yet I could feel the psychological safety around me. And the fact that you're going through class with people who are verbally saying out loud the very things you're fearing inside. And so you're not alone,
Yeah.
and it's safe to admit, "Holy cow, I'm comparing myself to this person," or, "I'm having this thought," and, all the things.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that was awesome. Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
All right. I just got a tickle in my throat. Excuse me. So then with you got the feedback, how was that experience for you? Not necessarily specifics, but just that whole experience. Did
Yeah.
you feel, yeah, how did that make you feel? Was that something that was helpful, that was
Yeah. I loved my feedback. I love feedback when done from a place of redemption. Think we might have just lost. Did we lose you?
no, I just pulled myself off to get myself a drink of water.
I was like, "She's gone."
You keep talking.
I kept seeing it recording. I'm like, "Do I keep talking?" I think I keep talking. Um, I also, throughout my career, have, not had leaders do a decent job of giving me feedback, particularly feedback where I can make myself even better. And so, scripture says that open rebuke is better than hidden love. And not that you were rebuking me, but I'm just
Mhm.
saying it's that ability to call things out for the sake of making you a better person. And so I loved it. And I thought, it all bore witness with me. I very much felt like the feedback was accurate and spot on. And so for me, I thought it was very well done. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I, you are very coachable, which is beautiful
Mm.
when people are able to apply some of the things that they receive as feedback, and the difference was amazing from day 1 to day 2. So I was really, I mean, you probably saw it too, and everybody who was there from day 1 to day 2, the shifts that were happening in
Yeah.
terms of, okay, now you need to go back to your hotel room and kind of
Yeah.
read.
Yeah. Which honestly, day 2 was so much harder for me because you now, okay, you got through day 1 to some degree, you're not as nervous. You can do it, but now you've got feedback. And thank goodness my feedback was minimal. So, but for me, this is where God was working on other issues in me, right? Like, so for me, that deep root of perfectionism and some
Mhm.
of the fear of rejection, like my brain, it's like I'm like, oh, they gave me feedback. I've got to do this perfectly. And so I know one area of growth there that will be for me is to be able to just get more comfortable not having things memorized. And I still did a really good job, I think, of not sounding so
Mhm.
memorized.
You didn't. Yeah.
But that still was in my mind of, okay, I can't forget to apply this piece of feedback, and I can't, like that was
Yeah.
all there on day 2. So
Yeah. And one of my mentors often said this, is that you need to speak yourself to speaking, right? Oftentimes we've often heard, practice, it's all about practice. But if we're not practicing the right things, here's what can happen as well, is that we can actually be practicing bad habits or
yeah,
practicing things that are actually not effective. So
sure.
practice alone is not the key. It's practicing the right
Yeah.
things that, and then continue to speak and apply those things
Mm.
that, just like, again, just like driving a car, the more you do it, it just becomes second nature.
Right.
So
Right.
even with the framework, with the Kim 10 framework, it just becomes, after a while, it's like, oh, okay, second nature, that
Yep.
you don't have to memorize everything. It just becomes
Yep.
this grid that you go through.
Yep.
So yeah, so I am excited to see what happens in the next year, and I know that you're going to be coming back, so
Yes.
that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. I know the Lord is calling me now to invest in podcasting is the next thing, and the mechanics of all that overwhelm me. And so he just keeps like day by day. And of course, we have even those kind of resources and
Mhm.
relationships inside our platform. And so, but inside of podcasting, you have to create content. And this is teaching me how to even frame up those kind of things, the episodes that I would do inside of that. And I'm even finding myself now like, okay, if I have to do a presentation at work, I have a framework. Like I know I have this framework the rest of my life. And the other thing too, depending on who's listening to this, my company, my day job is supportive of professional development opportunities. I was able to create a proposal demonstrating how these skills would translate into my day job. So they paid for everything.
So good. That's so good.
Yeah, yeah. From the flight to the everything, from the class costs, all of it. I didn't pay a dime. So,
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I think that is key. A lot of people don't realize
mhm,
that, whether it be within your benefits, that there's a category that it could fit into in your wellness benefit or
yeah.
professional development, that this is a skill development that transfers into every area of life.
Everything, everything. And I even put both of my RLA courses on there, and they retroed and went back and paid for those with my monthly membership fees. So I just encourage you to look into that.
Fantastic. So
Yeah,
good. All
yeah.
right, Lenee, any last words that you want to leave with someone, someone who's thinking about, you know what, I'd really like to Yeah, I'd really like to be a better speaker, improve my communication skills, but they're unsure, if that's really for them. What would you say?
Yeah, two things I would say. Regardless of whether you want to be a speaker on stage, you're a speaker in life, in
Mhm.
conversation, in whatever. This will help you there. And then do it afraid. That's what I always say. You don't get the fruit if you don't climb out on the limb. So
So good. I love that. The best fruit are way
yeah. By the time it falls, it's probably not ripe anymore, not worth eating. So yeah.
Exactly. That reminds me, actually, when I was growing up, my friends had plum trees in their yard, and they would, I don't know why, maybe just because I was, you know, not afraid to go up there, but they
Yeah.
would always send me up. You need to go and get those plums. So
Love
I can relate to that analogy very well. And
yeah.
yes, I concur. I think this communication is actually the highest paid skill on the planet. And doesn't matter what industry you're in, it will help promote you, it help you just really excel in those areas because communication intersects with every area of life. And so excited, Lenee. Thank you so much for taking time to share with us your experience.
Yeah.
And if you are listening today and you have resonated with anything that we said, or you're interested in knowing more about the Kingdom Speaker Academy or other communication courses, we have other ones in there that you can continue to take inside of the Girl Power Alliance. Wherever you're listening to this, if it's Lenee or me, reach out to us so that we can help you get set up so that you can begin to not only gain more confidence, but clarity, but be able to step into the calling that God has on your life and to do it with excellence and to be able to express that in a way that reaches the people that you're meant to reach.
Yeah. Amen. Thanks for
Amen.
having
You're
me.
so welcome. All right, everyone. Remember that your voice is an instrument of transformation and that needs to be heard. So let it be heard. Bye, everyone. As you're listening today, you may have felt prompted to say, I want to become a much better speaker. I want to be able to speak with confidence, clarity, and transformational impact. I want to invite you to check out the link in the comments below, wherever you're listening to this. Your voice is an instrument of transformation and needs to be heard. So let it be heard.